Heyo everybody, Haku here with my live reaction to read through for Tower of God chapter 639 or season 3 episode 222. I am, despite being a little critical the past few weeks, really excited to read this week. It's a bit late. It's almost midnight. I've spent all day with family, so I'm running really late tonight. And I am excited to read though, because like I keep saying the past few weeks, the goal is always to just have fun, read this, share my reaction with all of you, talk to all of you. And I really, last week's chapter, it wasn't perfect, but I didn't think it was all that bad, really. There are a lot of things where, there's still some issues, there's still some stuff that's like, okay, I'm a little burnt out on it, or maybe it's not the best. But generally, there were a lot of things last week where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of glad that CU made this decision. I'm kind of glad that CU made this decision. And generally, I thought last week was fine. So this week, again, who knows? Because though I think the overall trajectory of the story, or maybe the overall story in general, there are some things in season 3 that I think it's fair to dislike and say, oh, I haven't liked season 3 from the beginning. But for me personally, I've generally mostly liked season 3 with all its faults and everything, up until this arc, and maybe a little before this arc. There was some stuff that wasn't like super crazy serious for me, but the cracks were showing for sure. And though the overall stuff is not the best this arc, it's not great. When you get to a chapter to chapter basis, we're getting some chapters that are fine, we're getting some chapters that aren't very good, and we are getting some chapters that are quite good. So, it makes me excited that, okay, is this going to be a good chapter or is this not? What are we actually going to get? And where are we going to go with what's going on right this second? Because the Bomb and Dorothy and Kiru stuff is kind of weird. I really don't know what we're doing with that. But that could be key if Bomb gets the piece and runs to the chess arena. That could be something that ends up changing the entire structure of what's going on in the story right now. And also the fight that's going on, we need to see what happens here. Again, the fight between the family heads is not the best one we've seen. There are definitely some things I really, really, really like about it, but there's also the issue of it feels like it's been going nowhere for a while now. It feels like we're just spinning wheels a lot because we keep cutting away from it to do all this other stuff because we jumped straight into it and we have all this other stuff going on, stuff that's been off-screened that I don't even know if we're going to get un-off-screened. Things that we just cut back to here and there, and cutting back to that, while I appreciate it, is taking time away from this, and the organization is a bit sloppy, and so it makes me wonder, okay, what are we doing with this fight? Are we gonna keep spinning wheels on it, or are we gonna go check out something else? So either way, with all that aside, let's just read this week. And of course, I think it can be fun too. I mentioned before, like, the goals to have fun. I think it can be fun still being critical of things you enjoy. We can still have fun with it and be critical of things that we enjoy. Because there are some things just to discuss, like, that aren't the best. But hopefully this doesn't give too much of that. Hopefully we can just talk about good things happening. That would be the ideal. We have our violence warning. Sorry, I was just going through it in my head and hit readers. Violence warning, which is very, very typical and usually deserved lately. Okay, yeah, we were having the summoning of Unos. Alright, we saw this last time. I almost forgot that this was what we ended on. It's tearing the veil open, essentially. Behold, the emissary of the spirits that have broken through the firmament and descended upon our world. Then we have Trummery versus Gastong 7. Okay, trying to take this in and understand what I'm seeing. It looks like the hand itself is reaching through and leaning on to the amalgam of creatures that is Holin at this juncture. We're seeing its face again. Its face reminds me of a lot of the weird creatures and mechanical designs we've seen thus far. And even like some of the armor masks and stuff. We have Tromare. Looks like he's even being somewhat assisted here from behind by Valhalla. Where the hell did that thing come from? I don't command anything. Okay. My power derives from imagination that comes from reading. So he doesn't command it, he just summons it. I would get from this. Seeing more wide shots of everything going on. With the Tromare Valhalla protected little ball there in the middle. We have Holland screaming as everything's getting torn apart. Unos again leaning out of the sky itself. As all of the bits of Holland seem to be falling apart. And okay, at first I thought that was like pink hair within. I was like, hold on, was there something inside of Holland? But I think it's just the meat of this creature. Right? Imagination towers above everything else, and we have the book being held open by Gaston's arm. That is a really, really, really cool shot. Until Blossom's flame incinerates it, that is. So Blossom's flame. Unless this is a weird translation, because this feels like it could be a weird translation. This is no more than a little breeze to me. Don't get too cocky. All I have to do. And it seems like the wisps are going around Gaston's face. Is cut through it. And Gaston sliced through again, but it looks almost like he's falling apart into these wisps. Like maybe he shadow cloned him or something. He disappeared. We have Tromare at the ready with Valhalla. Valhalla. She moves up. I know it's a nuisance, but go fight him for me. And then Unos looks up. Valhalla uses the wings to attack again. What about Gaston? So this feels like they might be doing a Windbird type thing. Where did he go? Is he hiding in the vines? And then Tromare redirects his own attention. Unos and Valhalla are still fighting. It's about time. Brings out another sheet of disconnect. I shut that thing up. And he uses that against Unos. I guess because Unos did like just tear a hole in the firmament, tear a hole in existence itself, and like stick its arms through and then pull its head and upper body, it seems like, through. But I don't think we've seen a lower body. I guess if you disconnect the upper body we've seen so far from the place where it's coming out, that would maybe disconnected from where it's being summoned. Am I supposed to be afraid of some silly imaginary friend of yours, Gaston? You make me laugh. What in the world made you think I ran away? And Gaston then comes from the wisps of cloud to go for another close range attack with the bonkin stick. And it looks like he hits it again. So again, Tromare is just taking brain damage. This is at least his third time being nailed with a defense-piercing blunt weapon to the head. Blood spraying out again. Okay, it looks like it may have just grazed him this time. Because he's holding his head in position. Shit. And then he starts using his power from Rapid. I was like, hold on, I was trying to think of the name. Unfortunately for you, Unos is the very wind that blows outside the tower. Okay, so very much pulling a Windbird. No matter how hard you try, you can't cut it to pieces. So, this is an interesting note. It is the wind that blows outside the tower, and Disconnect, which disconnects Shinsu, can't stop it. Or basically, like, it, I feel like it maybe it can separate it, but even if it does, it just, connects back together whenever Disconnect isn't present. So I wonder how then something like Disconnect would fare against like primordial elements. like the natives or native ones would use. And then more clouds get spewed out. We have Gastang weaving past Tromre and Valhalla. Tromre reacting. Stop getting on my nerves. And piss off. And he sends out a blast from Rapid this time. But the clouds have encased him to cut off his ability to see. Help. And we see people formed by them, calling for help. He's trapped within, and then we see the hand of Unos coming to grab him. Do you think he's putting up walls again? This ridiculous illusion will work against me. And he creates another one of the spirals of disconnect. There you are. I just sense Gastang. Oh, and Gastang turned him against Valhalla. I've got him now. How can this be? There's no way I mistook something else for Gastang. And he slices through. Because he put his arm there at Valhalla. Is that his arm? You fool. And his mouth opens from the book. He tricked me. I can't even bring myself to look you in the eye. Rest in peace, fallen spirit. He lets down a cigarette to where Valhalla is. And it erupts in flame. Gastang, you bastard. How dare you toy with me? We have more creatures coming from around him. It looks like the golden spirit Shinsui ones from his orb. Or tank, whatever. The Shinwan Ryu he uses. He starts to take its power back onto himself. Okay, some really big panel breaks here. And even Valhalla. And he's gone back long hair. We have a long hair Tromre back. I actually kind of like it. He's stanced up against Unos now. Be gone. And he creates a cylinder of disconnect. Around all of everything going on right now, I think. Where he is. So that would include Unos and the arm. Or I guess it looks like maybe he made it and then is pushing it outward, destroying whatever he pushes it into. So rather than just cutting, it's like he's creating this destructive field. I haven't had to summon this much power in ages. I never realized this until now, but when I'm in this state, I think I can use Rupture not only on sheets of matter, but even on solid bodies as well. You're up next. And, you know, some of the artwork, a little goofy. His proportions are a little odd here. Gastang. And we see Gastang over by the sprout. He can use Rupture on 3-dimensional spaces. In that case, this next attack could be seriously dangerous. So I can't really tell if he created the cylinder around himself and then pushed it outward, or if he just created the cylinder around all of the space there, and because he's doing it in 3-dimensional space instead of 2-dimensional space, it's just that everything within the cylinder was just completely destroyed. In that case, This next attack could be seriously dangerous. And he starts piling up sheets to make an orb. Like I said earlier, Gastang. We see a cut through existence itself. You're going to regret this. And what even is this area with all these ships? Or is the area with all the ships just here? Is this all like he's rupturing this whole area? Because isn't that the Ark of Knowledge and all the Pobedao ships? So is he just going to nuke all of the Pobedao ships? Did he somehow manage to cut through a spell that stops space-time itself? He hasn't simply gone from using rupture on flat surfaces to three-dimensional spaces. This is the ultimate form of rupture. Funny, isn't it? Seeing all those insignificant, trivial creatures stick their noses in our fight and start killing each other for some pointless war. Doesn't it remind you of the old days, Gastang? I didn't want to have to leave the battleship ever again, because I knew something like this would happen. This is all your fault. You should never have forced me to leave the battleship. I'm the very incarnation. And now, we're seeing this. Of all that is evil and repulsive. So are the hands in this skull, is this actually summoned by Traumerei? Is this like an amalgam chimera creature, sort of like what Rashut was making, but on just a bigger scale, a Traumerei scale? And that's where we end. Okay. So I think solid enough. It's one of those things where solid enough, but we have to see where things go. I personally liked it. I think the fight was solid. It feels like we escalated it to a certain degree, but we keep escalating, and it just makes me wonder, what are we going to do with all this other stuff? There's so much other stuff, so many other characters going on in the arc, and we've definitely taken our attention away from character-focused stuff, and we have this fight going on. And I thought this chapter was good, but I'm just curious what it's going to lead to, where it's going to go, what CU's going to actually do with this. That is what I'm wondering. But generally, I think the escalation of Traumerei's power is cool. It's fitting for a family head. It's very, very OP, but again, it works. Family heads are supposed to be essentially gods. So I think it works. It's just... I'm just really, really not sure. Again, this chapter itself, good. I like the escalation. I like the powers we saw. All of that. It feels like Valhalla, again, maybe we used Valhalla more in just a straightforward action sort of way, and we didn't get deep enough into what we could have gone into, at least yet. We might do it later, get into with Traumerei's feelings, and if we got deeper into, if, like, mega confirming that Valhalla is Amazu's body, then getting deeper into the character connection and importance there with Traumerei, or with Gastang just go ahead and like finishing it off. And it feels like we could have built more, I don't know, character emotion there. But again, we could get that in the future, so I won't really say that that's a negative yet. But it's one of those things where in the future we'll see. If this stuff is followed up on well, then I think that this was a big win. But it's like, if we don't follow up on this with some good storytelling, then it's gonna just be another like, okay, well, whatever. So it's like a lot of this is contingent on where it leads to. But I think for just right now, for this week itself, I liked it. I thought it was solid. So either way, I guess that's it. Not a long video, actually, which is probably helpful since it's like midnight. So I will go ahead and try to get this video up as quickly as possible. Thank you for being here, though. Thank you for watching. I really, really do appreciate it so much. I'm just so used to recently having such long videos, even though we're only reading one single chapter, that having one single chapter last 20-ish minutes is like, wow, that's way different, even though that's kind of probably a more appropriate reaction length for some of these chapters, especially this chapter in particular, where we were really heavily focused on the action. And I think that's a good thing, though sometimes it can be a bad thing. I personally like jumping around a lot in stories. I like seeing a bunch of different characters, a bunch of different things. And sometimes when you're reading these long-running stories, sometimes that's what you want to see. Sometimes you want to see a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Sometimes you want to jump around a bunch. But that can be a very bad thing. Sometimes you very much don't want that. And sometimes what you really, really want in some of these long-running stories is for each chapter to just have a focus. And maybe next chapter can focus on something else, and the next can focus on something else, and then we'll come back to focus on this again. But this felt like a very focused chapter. We were really focused on Traumerei and Gaston, and I actually, now that I'm talking through it aloud to myself, that's been a lot of the really good chapters this arc, where again, a lot of this arc hasn't been great. The flashback stuff, was focused on flashback stuff, but it was running through things very quickly, and I think that also helped with its pacing a bit. But I think when we've really focused in on, like, Traumerei and Gaston, it's been good. When we really focused in on Bam and Dumas, the issues with Bam and Dumas, I think, are grander series-wide issues, like the place it came in the series, or how we got here, the characters' motivations behind it. There are problems like that, but, I said before when I was reading the Bam and Dumas stuff, out of context, I think that, like, the Bam versus Dumas chapters would have been, like, really pretty good. It's just that, yeah, I said, even in my reactions, I'm like, in context, I can tell, the story behind this, beyond this, that we've already seen, and in context, a lot of this kind of stinks, but out of context, the Bam and Dumas stuff, pretty solid. If I had never read Tower of God before, and you just sat me down with one single chapter of it, and it was one of those chapters, not a bad single chapter, I think. It's only the context that holds it down, the deeper story that holds it down. Just on a surface level, it's like, okay, if you don't think about it at all, and you just go in completely at a surface level, completely blind to the series, pretty solid just by itself. And this is another thing where this chapter, I think it was fine, just good by itself. But yeah, even with context, I think this chapter to me was fine. But even so, like, as a single individual chapter, it was really good. I think somewhere along there I lost the plot. I lost the train of thought that I was even on. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. We can talk more in the comments. We can talk more next week, of course. So yeah, I'm trying to remember if I needed to say something else, anything else, if I wanted to say anything, but, I'm not thinking of it at the moment. So, if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this week's chapter, my thoughts and reaction to it. Subscribe for more Tower of God and much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. If you want a link to the Discord server, it is free and open for anyone. We can just talk there. If you want to help support the channel, to help me to keep making videos, Tower of God and so much more, you can drop a super thanks if you want to, and that's extremely appreciated, especially coming up on holiday season and everything. It is extremely appreciated. It really does help me to keep making things and keep doing things. But if you want to get at least something out of it yourself, then rather than a super thanks, which is again appreciated, you could hit join down below to become a member, and you'd get One Piece videos a bit early. You'd get your name at the end of videos, and the same thing goes for going to patreon.com/Haku of the Tubes, or a link will be in the description to become a patron. Same thing with patrons, you get One Piece videos early, get your name at the end of videos. So if you want, I don't know, it's not really much. I don't like paywalling things. I don't want to put my videos behind a paywall. So that's why it's not really much, but it's at least a little extra thank you. So if you want to support the channel that way, like I said, Patreon or join down below to become a member. Thank you to people who are already patrons and channel members. Thank you to Chosen Regular Evan Holly, Magical Girls, FR Nono, JA and the D-Van, Cherryton Students, David Langstaff and Folded Ghoul, Slayer Candidates, SG and Stan Cedar, and Pure Element Pate Ardialo. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.